Welcome to this latest how-to video from Award-Winning Outdoors, where we're going to talk about how to tie a feather jig. Before I get started, be sure to check out my blog at awardwinning94.wordpress.com, and we're going to show you here about how to make a feather jig. I started doing this back during COVID when you could not buy a fishing lure in town for anything. The lure aisle looked like the toilet paper aisle had. Everybody was heading outdoors and you just couldn't buy one. I'd already started tying flies and I realized that tying a jig used the same supplies, the same materials, and was actually a whole lot faster and easier. So I'm going to start with some green polyester thread. Polyester is better than cotton because it's less prone to rot if you store it wet. And I'm just going to wrap it a whole bunch of times behind the head and part way back, and then I'm going to trim off this extra here with my little fly tying scissors. And I've got some green maribou feather here, which I'm going to kind of space. You can make it as long or as short as you want, and you can use any color you want. You can use a combination of colors. One of the fun things about tying your own is you can make them however you want to make them. If you want to tie in some tinsel or something else to add some flash or something unusual, you can. Trim it off the front end there just so it doesn't stick out and get in the way. And then I've got some green chenille. I'm going to leave just a little piece of that here where I'm tying in my maribou feather. Snug that down good and then just wrap the thread back up to the head of the hook and lay it aside. I find it helpful to moisten the feathers. A little saliva on the fingers or some water or something, that kind of helps keep them out of the way. And then take your chenille and just start wrapping from the back where you tied it on towards the head of the hook. You can wrap it as tight or I should say as thickly as you want if you want multiple layers. There's different sizes of chenille you can get. I'm going to trim off, leave a little bit of a tail here to start with, but now that I've got it up near the tip of the hook or the head of the hook, I'm going to make a couple wraps of thread around to hold it. And then at this point, I'm going to do a couple of half hitches around the head of the hook to secure that in place. After I get my first one there, I'll trim off that extra tail. And I just cut off my thread, so I'm just going to re-wrap a little more thread to make sure that I get this good and secure. Finish the half hitches I was starting to do before I cut my thread. The half hitches will help secure it in place. If you wanted to do a fancy whip finish, you could, but you really don't need to because you're not needing to build up a head or anything on here. Trim my tails off there. And then I like to finish it with just a drop or two of head cement right around where it's tied and also kind of at the back there. And sometimes I'll even put a couple drops in the top just because one of the weaknesses of a lot of jigs is they'll tend to come untied and unraveled on you when you're fishing with them. But that's basically done. My feathers here are a bit longer than I'd like, so I'll just trim them. Those are going to look perfectly natural in the water, and I now have a jig that I was able to tie in a matter of a few moments. You could do a bunch of these an hour, a whole lot cheaper than you can buy them, and if the market's like it was a couple years ago, that may be the only way to get them. So down at the bottom of the video, click the like and subscribe button if you want to see some more handy hints. Thanks for watching and happy fishing.